Hey guys, welcome to another Life Success Factors video. I know I haven't posted in a while, and I thought I'd just do this video today to quickly talk about this great book that I'm reading at the moment, and it's called Man's Search for Meaning, and it's by a guy called Viktor Frankl. Now guys, if you haven't read this book already, I highly recommend you check it out. It's actually a book about Dr. Viktor Frankl and his experience going through the Nazi concentration camps during World War II as a Jewish prisoner. And this book was given to me by a really good friend of mine, a colleague that I used to work with a few months ago while we were going through a number of changes on a project that we were working on, and things were getting really hectic and really challenging, and this guy was a little bit older than I was, and he'd obviously been through a few more stressful situations than I had, and it was a really great gesture by him to sort of provide me with this book. And this book has got some really great lessons about how to deal with adversity. Obviously, noting what I was going through, it was just doesn't even hold a candle to what people went through during the Second World War and the Holocaust and things like that. But I thought I'd just do a quick video today to talk about some of the learnings that I got out of it. And hopefully by the end of this video, you guys will be sort of encouraged to go check it out, but also to give you a little bit more perspective on your life and some of the adversity and the challenges that you might be facing. So if you haven't checked this book out, guys, as I said, it's a book about a guy called Dr. Viktor Frankl, who was, I believe, a psychiatrist prior to being taken as a prisoner of war during World War II. And it is a story that he's documented about how he actually got through the adversity that was in front of him, the challenges of camp life. I mean, not knowing if he was even going to survive the next day. And I think the first thing that really struck me was that even in suffering there is meaning, and that's one of the first things that Frankl talks about, was that obviously going through such a harrowing experience is what he and his fellow prisoners went through. A lot of the people around him really died before they physically died, because they lost all hope and they lost all meaning for their life. And this was one of the key learnings from this book for me, was that no matter what you're going through, just understand that there's a meaning behind it. And if I look back to some of the challenges that I've been through over the last year, throughout any area of my life, it's always been a challenge, obviously, to get over that adversity. But when I've come out the other side, and with the benefit of hindsight, I realized that there was a reason why I went through those challenges, and there was a reason for some of the suffering, some of the pain, and it's the thing, it's who you become out of the adversity, out of the challenge. And that was one of the key learnings for me from this book. But also, with the benefit of hindsight, looking at some of the challenges that I sort of faced over the last year, understanding the person who I am today would have not been possible if not for going through those challenges. And I think it really makes you a stronger person. It allows you to become more resilient, and I think that's so important today. That's something that you just can't learn about through reading, or you've got to go through it. You've got to go through that. You've got to live through it. It's a lived experience, and it's only through that lived experience that you can actually steel yourself to be able to tackle life's challenges. Because throughout your life, you will come up against challenges that you haven't come across before. But by going through adversity, you develop a bit of a resilience, and you're able to tackle challenges and come out the other side a better, stronger person. So that was one of the first things that really struck me. And the second thing that really struck me about Frankl is he talked about his experience, going from camp to camp, was the sort of mental fortitude that he seemed to have developed. And this was one of the things that I think actually allowed him to, sort of transcend the suffering around him. He quite often talks about the prisoners around him, not having something to live for. And, the one thing that he always kept in the front of his mind was that, his wife, who he really loved, she was someone who he obviously had longed to be reunited with. And that image, that mental image of her, was something that got him through his darkest hours. And that was his why. That was the thing that really solidified his mental fortitude. And I think that was a really powerful message. And I think that's something that we can carry through in our day-to-day lives in this day and age. What is your why? What is your purpose? I don't think we give ourselves enough credit in terms of defining what that purpose is, what that why is. Guys, it's so important. I know that we're constantly seeking answers to our questions. Why are we here? What is the meaning of life? And Frankl, he's got this really great quote. I'm going to paraphrase it because I can't repeat it verbatim, but it essentially goes, asking life what the purpose of it is sort of asking the wrong question. It's actually finding the meaning of life by responding to life's challenges, and that's the key, because everyone's going to have a different experience. We all have, our path in life is all different. So there is no one single answer, and nor should we be looking for an answer. Our answer should be our response to how we deal with the challenges of life. And I think that was a really powerful message that I got from this book, was that, if you were someone like Frankl going through, that horror, that tragedy that he found himself in, you'd be asking yourself the question, why am I here? What's the point of going through this all? And it was amazing to see how Frankl found that purpose, that reason. He was actually a psychiatrist. He was a doctor. He was professionally medically trained before he went into those concentration camps. And he actually talks about how he was able to use that medical training to help the prisoners around him who were, suffering a whole range of ailments, mental, physical, physiological, you name it. And, he found meaning in that because he was able to impart some of that knowledge that he had to help, better the lives of the people around him, even in such dire circumstances. So that was a really good takeaway for me, was that finding that, that purpose, that why. And it's in how we respond to the situations around us. And it's not necessarily a clear-cut answer that we can get by just asking the question. It's sort of turning that question on its head. Another really powerful message that I really love from this book was that Frankl often talks about his reason to live, and how when he, every camp that he went to, and as he saw men who, were new to the camp and they came in, he could tell those who were going to die very soon, because he could see in their eyes that they had just given up. They had no reason to live. And Frankl, I think he understood what he needed to do, basically, to ensure his survival, and that was to have his why. What was his purpose? What was his what was his reason for being? What was his reason, over the horizon? Say he did get out of that circumstance, what did he have to live for? And yes, it was his wife, but it was also that ability to be able to go through this tragedy and get to the other side and become a better person, and actually help the people who were also going through similar things. and really share that message. So that was another really powerful message that I got from that book. So another really powerful message that I got from this book was that indecency does not discriminate. And so what do I mean by that? And I think the one quote that really encapsulates this was that he found that there were Nazi soldiers who were really nice, or let's say decent, but that there were fellow prisoners who were on the complete opposite end of that spectrum, really indecent. And he uses the examples of this group of prisoners who sort of had a higher standing in the hierarchy of camp life, and they were called capos, and basically they were the ones who were sort of entrusted by the soldiers to carry out some of their work. And some of them were really good, while some of them were really bad, and probably a little bit worse than some of the soldiers. So he saw that spectrum, and it really didn't matter which side a person sat on, there was indecency across the board or decency across the board. And that was another really powerful message. It's easy to try and look at the world through the lens of it's either black or white, but the world is complex, and it's that everything is grey, and the lines are blurred, and sometimes we can't take things on face value because we if we try and simplify the world around us a little bit too much, we struggle to actually make sense of it all. And I think that was an example of that Viktor Frankl used to sort of show the spectrum of human decency or indecency rather, and how I suppose indecency doesn't really discriminate. You can obviously be on the side of good and be bad, and be on the side of bad but be seen to be good or seen to be doing good. So I think for me that opened up my eyes a little bit, and sort of it challenges me now to really assess things on their merits, and not to judge, not to jump to conclusions. And I think that's really what Frankl was trying to get to. At least that's what I understand from reading that part of the book. And another really powerful message that really struck me was he really encapsulated by this quote. And once the end of uncertainty came, the uncertainty of the end was the thing that really stuck in prisoners' minds, and you could see how they sort of got lost because they sort of just resigned themselves to the fact that they were going to perish in these camps. And it was those who were sort of a little bit weaker mentally who really succumbed to the circumstances and the harsh realities of the life around them. But Frankl, surprisingly, through his mental fortitude, was able to navigate that. And I'm not really sure how, because it's an amazing story, and it's really hard to understand how you'd react unless you're in that situation. But he was able to always envisage a future where he would walk out of the camps and be a free man once again. And I thought that was a really powerful message. And guys, the final message that I got out of this book was this concept of a person's inner freedom, and attitude is the last real human freedom. That's something that no one can take away from you. And if as you read obviously about the horrors of what happened during that time, and how people's dignity was taken away from them, and how they were subjected to such physical horrors and abuses, the one thing that Frankl talks about was that how you react to something is completely in your control, despite the circumstances around you. And your attitude is the only thing that someone can't take away from you as you're going through adversity. And it's really how you react to things. That says a lot about your ability to be resilient and to get through adversity. And it's that inner freedom, that attitude that you have, that's a really powerful tool that we all have, that will allow us to get through adversity, to get through the challenges in our life. And if I think about, the challenges that I've been through in my life, and, as I look back on my career and, personally, it's always been how I've chosen to react to situations that has allowed me to actually come out the other side and be a better person, come out unscathed. Not always, but it certainly helps when you've got the right mindset, and you always try to see things in such a way that, okay, well, if things aren't going right, then, well, what can I do to control the controllable? And if there are things that I can't control, then, well, you've just got to let things be and not let it consume you. But having that attitude that you're always in control of yourself and your actions, I think will actually see you get through adversity a lot easier than if you sort of just give up the reins and choose to quote unquote lose yourself. So that was a really powerful message, that concept of inner freedom. And guys, this is a bonus. Frankl talks about how one must not pursue success, and how success, like happiness, shouldn't necessarily be pursued. One must try and pursue betterment. Try and be better day in, day out, and success, like happiness, will follow. It's sort of like a chicken and egg situation, if you will. But if you think about it, how many times have you tried to pursue something and you've felt like you've never been able to attain it? But when you haven't really focused on something, that it's come to you really easily. And he draws this parallel with success. Success is not something that you can actively chase. You can do all of the things. You should actually do the things that make you successful, but not actively target success. And I think that's a really powerful message, because sometimes we tend to focus on the outcome instead of what we actually need to do to get to where we want to. And there's different schools of thought on this, but it was a really interesting take on success, and setting your goals, and how you actually can get there in the most efficient way possible, or just turning that sort of concept on its head. So I found that really helpful. So guys, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below and a comment, and let me know what you thought about this video. If you've read the book, I'd love to know what other takeaways you got out of the book, and some of your favorite quotes. Let me know in the comment section below. And share this video with your friends if you think they might get benefit out of it. And I'd appreciate if you subscribe to my channel for more great content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.